to The Art of Adventure. This is episode 143 with JG Francouer. The Art of Adventure is the podcast that helps you travel the world, run your business, and embark on an epic quest. I'm your host, lead explorer and guide, Derek Loudermilk. You can head over to derekloudermilk.com to check out the show notes for this episode and all previous episodes and future episodes. And you can sign up for the Art of Adventure email newsletter there, where you'll get all the updates on articles, plus monthly reading recommendations and other freebies that you don't get on the podcast. I want to say thank you to my patrons over on Patreon for supporting the Art of Adventure and making the show possible. To donate, you can go to patreon.com/Derek Loudermilk. And I am really digging the coaching that I'm doing. I'm working with several people, personal coaching, lifestyle, business, all rolled into one. It's a complete coaching package, and I'm really enjoying it. And so I've decided to open up a couple more spots to take on new clients. So if you are interested, you can drop me a line, Derek@derekloudermilk.com, or you can sign up through the website on the coaching page. I'll set you up with a free 1-hour life clarity session. This is a $200 value, and this is only for listeners of the podcast. And this is totally no strings attached. You're welcome to work with me for an hour. And if you're interested, maybe we will work more together. But special offer just for listeners of the podcast. Go ahead and drop me a line. So today on the podcast, JG Francouer is on the show to tell us all the amazing benefits to writing a book. So from credibility to publicity to being able to give your book to someone at an event and sign it right in front of them, book is a great way to grow your business. And he'll share things like the number 1 and number 2 mistakes that new authors make. He shares 6 easy frameworks for creating the content, actually writing your book, largely with material you already have, which I'm inspired to go write my book right now, because as some of you will remember, I was working on my book earlier this year. It's not finished. I'd really like to get it done. So I think you're really going to enjoy this episode. A lot of you will benefit from thinking about writing a book. So without further ado, here is JG Francouer. Back to the Art of Adventure, and today my guest is JG Francouer. He's joining us from near Toronto, Canada. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you having me.
And for the listener, JG is an author of the best-selling book Messy Manager. He's the CEO of Black Card Books, and which has publishing boot camps around the world. JG himself is a pretty big traveler, and so we'll talk a little bit about travel and a lot about writing books. And before the show, we were just talking about your recent trip around the Baltics and visiting Russia, which you liked, and so that's great. I was curious whether you were mixing business and pleasure on that trip.
The good question. Actually, it was a mix. It's always typically a mixture. I mean, I think just with the people like your audience listening, I think if you could mix business and pleasure, I think that's great. I often get to the border, and the border guards always ask me, are you here for business or pleasure? And I'm kind of perplexed by the question. I'm kind of like, isn't it the same? I mean, I don't really get it. If you love what you do, and if you truly are living a sort of a fulfilled life, and if you are doing what you love to do every day, I have a hard time calling this a job. I have a really hard time calling this work. But there was a mix of business and pleasure. So, Derek, I would qualify my. I posted this thing on Instagram the other day, and I got rave reviews, and I said, my life is a constant vacation with interruptions of more vacations. So that's sort of how I see things.
Yeah, definitely. Since I've been traveling the world myself, and I wake up excited every day to get to work and meet people like yourself on this show. So my understanding of Black Card Books is that you guys are helping people publish their books, write their books and publish them through these workshops around the world.
Yes. So we're the fastest growing book publishing company in the world right now. And when everyone else is laying staff off, we're hiring. We went in the last 45 months, we went from we went from 4 employees to 122 employees in the last 45 months or so. So, when everyone else is laying people off, we're hiring people. When everyone else is closing offices, we're hiring people. When everyone else is taking on less authors, we're taking on more authors. So it's a great position to be in. And that's because sort of our angle is that we show business owners how to use a book as a marketing tool. We're not looking for fiction writers. We're not looking for people that want to write, be the next J.K. Rowling's and knock her off the bestseller list and write the next Harry Potter or 50 Shades of Purple or whatever. We're more interested in business authors who want to use a book as a marketing tool and use a book to position themselves uniquely in their marketplace and really dominate their business and their marketing. So that's really our angle, which is why we've been so successful over the last 4 years.
Yeah. I think a lot of entrepreneurs, especially people that may host podcasts or write blogs already, have in the back of their mind that it's a good idea to write a book. But why would you say we should write books?
The first thing, so we have a special report, which probably, if you want, Derek, I'm happy to include as part of the show notes, and people could just have it, no opt-in required. They could just part of the deal. It's a great special report we wrote called What Being an Author Can Do for You. So to really talk about, the credibility of being an author and the positioning of being an author and how you're essentially differentiating yourself from everyone else who does what you do. So if you look at, for example, a coach, and you probably have a lot of coaches, either life coaches or business coaches or consultants, and listening to your podcast. And that's actually one of our biggest client base, because if you're a coach and you don't have a book to differentiate you, you're just like everyone else. It doesn't matter what certifications you have. Those mean very little. In the hierarchy of authority, if you're an author, people don't doubt what you recommend to them. So your influence on them in terms of being able to coach them to success is much higher. So one of the things people get confused is people think that in order to write a book, you have to be credible. So first become credible, then write a book. We tell people in our boot camps that it's actually quite the opposite. If you write a book, then you'll be credible. So you really got to flip the formula around. So it's really about positioning. It's about authority. It's about credibility. It's about pull marketing and using that book as a tool to pull people towards you. Instead of you chasing them, make them chase you. That's the best way. And obviously, probably one of the last ones, and a lot of people are super excited about this, which is it makes you a local celebrity. It makes you a local, and if your business is global, that's fine. It makes you a global celebrity. You instantly become like a celebrity and you become a personality. And as a result, you get things like free publicity and so on and so forth. So, I mean, a book is just the number one best tool that I've ever found for growing a business. And this has really been pioneered by my business partner and the president of our company, Jerry Robert, who's now in the last 27 years of his career has generated well over $100 million for himself. And he came from a place of poverty. He was born on the wrong side of the tracks, and he used a book to pull himself out of that and go on to build several mega businesses. And now him as the president of Black Card Books is on pace to do $100 million a year within the next 24 months. So it's really a rags to riches story, which is incredible. If people have a chance, they should Google it and check it out.
Yeah. It seems like there are a lot of people publishing books, maybe more than ever. Is the market saturated, or is, competition an issue?
I love it. Such a great question, because that's actually probably on most people's minds. 2 questions about this. First of all, what's great is this ebook movement. Now ebooks are selling more than regular books. So people say, well, shouldn't I just do an ebook? When you have a physical book, when you have a book like this, and it's a physical book that you're holding in your hands, and you can just picture this scenario. You can autograph a copy of your book and give it to a possible prospect that you want to sell them into a coaching program. there's nothing that's going to change their perception of you like that book. So the market is most definitely not saturated. And we love to say, if there's a lot of books in your category, let's just say you're in fitness. That's probably one of the biggest categories in book publishing today is fitness. And a lot of our clients are fitness experts. If there's a lot of books in your category, we call that a clue. It's a good thing. It means there's a big market for it. So the answer is most definitely not. It is definitely not saturated. It works probably better today than it has ever worked before, simply because the cost of paper has gone up and the value of paper as a marketing tool. And because everyone's doing email marketing and everyone's doing Facebook and social media and ebooks and nobody's focusing on paper. So when you do something on paper, it gives it a legitimacy. It gives it something that people can hold on to and say, yeah, this is real. As a result, the value of paper has gone straight through the roof.
Cool. What was something that you didn't expect when you wrote your own book?
Oh boy. Yeah, fantastic question. So, when you come to our boot camp, so we teach a 3-day boot camp, 2.5-day boot camp, Friday evening, Saturday and Sunday. It's called Publish a Book and Grow Rich. And if you Google it, you can get more information on that, or just go to publishabookandgrowrich.com to get all the info. One of the things we say in our boot camp is that you're going to be amazed at how prospects come to you. You will no longer have to chase people. People will chase you. People will just flock to you, looking for your advice and looking to hire you as a coach. Now, we say this, and by the way, Derek, I started out as a student. I mean, today I'm the CEO of this great company and I'm business partners with Jerry Robert. But 9 years ago, I was a student of Jerry Roberts and I took the program, which is how I ended up building and selling 6 companies using a book as a marketing tool. So I'm a product of the product. I mean, no one's going to convince me this doesn't work, because I've been doing it now for almost a decade and it's just completely changed my life. So come back to what Jerry Robert used to say, is that you'll be shocked at how people will flock to you. You'll be shocked at how you can pull people towards you and use this book as a tool. So of course you hear this and you think, wow, wouldn't that be fantastic? But after I published one of my books, and I've written 4 books, but after A Messy Manager, I was doing some business consulting. This was years and years ago. And I went to Billings, Montana, and you and I were just talking about how I used to frequent Billings, Montana. I went to Billings, Montana for a consulting contract. And when I got there, I was greeted, not only one day I was in the office, and I was not only greeted by my client, who obviously knew me because was paying for the services. So I was there. He brought along someone else. And I thought, this is peculiar. And this other person introduced himself as a local restaurant owner. And I was shocked at how my client had been talking me up so much as the author of Messy Manager that this person felt compelled to come and meet me. Not only that, they invited me out to lunch, which I'll always accept a free meal. It's the fastest way to a man's heart, through his stomach. So I went out to lunch with this new prospective client, and on the spot, I ended up signing a 5-figure consulting contract. And I didn't even know this person more than a couple hours ago. But turns out they needed help with their business, with their restaurant business. I had the answers they were looking for. They knew I was an author. And as a result, this is what being an author can do for you. It really shortened the sales cycle. Instead of taking weeks and months maybe for them to feel comfortable with me, they instantly felt comfortable with me. And instantly I was able to recommend a course of action which they wanted to take. So we were able to get into a 5-figure consulting arrangement within a few hours of meeting me, all because I was an author. That would have never happened if I wasn't an author.
Wow, that's a really great story. That's so cool.
Yeah, and there's many more like that. I mean, being an author has just been incredible. I remember another time. Would you want me to share another one?
Yeah, it sounds good.
Yeah, so another time I was, we were doing publicity, and I had went to a Jerry Roberts course, Publish a Book and Grow Rich. And I thought, he's talking about publicity and how you can really get publicity and how journalists are looking for authors to interview, because as an author, you're a credible source of information. So you're not just Joe Schmo giving their opinion. You're a credible source. And if you think about publicity, if there's an airplane that goes down, let's just say, an airplane goes down near LAX. Well, the media can only keep that cycle going for so long. In order to prolong their news cycle, what they do is they bring in talking heads, they bring in authors, they bring in experts. And that's why you see the engineer from Boeing show up and the other engineer from Airbus show up. And then you see various authors and other personalities, media personalities, because the newspapers are looking to extend their news cycle. Anyways, with this information, armed with this information, I went to my local newspaper, who previously had told me that they were not interested in interviewing me as a business owner. I went back to them a few weeks later with my book in hand saying, hey, look, I'm the author of this book and I really think I have something to offer. So they said, okay, come on in for a meeting. I went in for a meeting and I walked out of that meeting 22 minutes later with a full page column every 2 weeks for the next year in that newspaper. And my business, as a result of getting that publicity, went from 300 clients to 3,000 clients in 6 months. That's the value of being an author. It just penetrates barriers that otherwise you wouldn't be able to get through.
Yeah. Maybe you could just briefly mention a little more of the mechanics. How do you get in touch with the newspapers or TV? How do you find the right media outlet in that case?
Sure. Yeah. So there's one great, now back then this didn't exist, but today what we recommend our authors do is they should sign up with a service called helpareporter.com. And the acronym is HARO, HARO, Help a Reporter Out. But I think the website is helpareporter.com. And this is a free service. You don't have to pay anything. And what happens is that reporters will issue essentially releases and say they're looking for the following experts to comment on their articles. And you as an author, you are well positioned, way above everybody else, to get the publicity. So we recommend this to our authors. And I tell you, we've probably in the last, just in the last 12 months, I've probably had, I couldn't even tell you the exact number, but hundreds and hundreds, maybe 1,000 plus features. Our authors getting featured in various news publications around the world. And we have our authors being in places like ABC News, Wall Street Journal, CNBC, Sky News, the Today Show. We've had lots of our authors asked to be on the Oprah Winfrey Show back in the day. It's obviously not around anymore, but back in the day. So absolutely amazing things can happen. That's the first thing I recommend for people. Help a reporter. And I think it's helpareporter.com, or just Google HARO, Help a Reporter Out. Sign up. It's absolutely free. Amazing resource for authors.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Personally, I have started work on a book. I've got a couple chapters. I've got the outline. I'm actually using the stuff from the book already in my coaching and workshops and whatnot. But I've never written a book before. And so one of the things that I really don't know much about is the process of writing a book. Where should people start when they're thinking that it's time to write a book?
Well, so two things. I think your question is about the mechanics of writing a book. And the mechanics of writing a book are a little bit, I can touch on those in a second. However, before that, the biggest mistakes made by authors today is that they don't ask themselves this question. Everybody starts with what the book's going to do for the reader. So they're thinking, as a new author, you're asking yourself, what's this book going to do for the reader? How can I help the reader? What kind of information do I have to put in the book in order to help the reader? So it's all reader focused. However, when you're writing one of these books, when you're writing a book to use as a marketing tool, the question you need to start with, and this is critical, if your listeners can take out a pen now, I'm going to give you the magic. The question you want to ask yourself is, what do I want the book to do for me? So as the author, what do I want the book to do for me? What is my primary objective? Now, a lot of people, and you got to get, this takes some work. You may not know right away. Your objective may be lead generation. Your objective may be credibility. Your objective may be publicity. Your objective may be positioning in the marketplace. Your objective may be a product to sell. Whatever your objective is, once you determine your objective, you then let that guide the rest of the process. And this is critical because if you think about the other way, if you think about, and I would say 80% of the people who come to our boot camp change their mind on the content of the book after the first day, because once you ask yourself the question, what do I want this book to do for me? And you let that guide the process, all of a sudden you're going to notice, there's different information I need to include, not what I originally thought about. Does that make sense?
Yeah. What's an example, say, if you want to use it for credibility, how would the content change?
So a good example, it depends on, well, it depends. So the formula is this, we call it the magical three, right? So first you got to ask yourself your primary objective. What is my primary objective? What do I want the book to do for me? Then you ask yourself, who's my target population? Who's going to be reading this book? Who do I want to sell? And then the third question is, what are their needs, desires, and problems? And the answer to what you're going to write about is you're going to help them solve their needs, desires, and problems. That's the answer.
Gotcha.
That makes sense? So that's the content you include.
Okay. And then from there, your own experience, your stories, your lessons can be shaped around that.
Absolutely. So now let's talk about the mechanics of writing a book. In our bootcamp, we talk about a process that we call how to write a book in 40 hours. So a lot of people, some of your listeners may have been thinking about writing a book for 40 months, maybe sometimes 40. I've had people say it's been 40 years I've been writing the book. And I just think, oh my goodness, if you would have came to our bootcamp, you could have solved all of this. We could do it in 40 hours. And we show them in our bootcamp a process for them to write their books in 40 hours. We should give them the whole process, the whole system. It's a proprietary system we developed. Now, however, let me give you 6 different ways people can start the book writing process and ways that they can essentially complete this book. And it makes it way easier. When you have a system to run on, it's a lot easier than trying to reinvent the wheel. So the first way, I'll give you 6 practical ways right now. The first one is interview people. So like you're interviewing me, for example, on this particular podcast. However, you could be interviewing me with pointed questions that lead to the content of your book. That would be one. And a famous example of this, and I think the majority of your readers would probably have heard of this book, it's Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. You're familiar with this, Derek? Sure. Yeah, so one of the best all-time selling books ever after the Bible is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Did you know that Napoleon Hill essentially didn't write that book? I mean, he interviewed experts in order to get the content for this book. And here's the tagline. Here's the soundbite is if you interview 12 experts and you write about it, you become the 13th expert.
I like that quote.
So a lot of people can essentially, especially your audience people, they're already doing maybe podcast interviews. They're already doing other types of interviews. They're already writing stuff. Just interviewing people is a great way. So that's number one. Number 2 is your own experience. So Jerry Robert wrote a international best-selling book called The Millionaire Mindset. This book is essentially his experience, how he pulled himself out of poverty to earning over $1 million a year. He wrote about it from his experience and how he did it. That makes him the guru. So in this is what you're talking about, Derek, where you're essentially writing from your own experience. So that's number 2. Number 3, this is fantastic, is recorded webinars. So a lot, especially in your audience, a lot of people are doing webinars. It's a very popular method of education these days. Here's what I recommend people. Set up a series of 8 webinars, and you want to record them, and then you transcribe them, and you assemble that into a book. Even if nobody shows up to your webinars, it's not about having an audience for your webinar. It's about getting the content from your webinars and turning that into a book. And one of the websites we recommend for transcription is rev.com, rev.com. They charge, I think it's $1 a minute. So if you do a 30-minute webinar, you're probably going to get somewhere in the range of, 30, 40, 50 pages of content, depending on how fast you speak and so on and so forth. If you think about transcribing a 30-minute webinar for $30 and you get 40, 50 pages, I mean, that's the best value on the market right there. It's incredible. So recorded webinars is number 3. Number 4 is combining blog posts. Probably every one of your listeners, or a great majority of them, has a blog, and they've been writing blog posts for the last several years. There's content in those blog posts, you can give those blog posts to an editor and have them turn them into a book. So that's another one. The 5th one is transcribing seminars. A lot of people are already speakers. They're already doing seminars or boot camps or workshops, or keynote talks. If you, again, video record that or audio record that, transcribe it into material, you have material. And then number 6 is speak your book. Is if you're not interviewing anybody else, you can essentially interview yourself. Write yourself down 10 questions for 10 chapters. So if you have 10 chapters for 10 questions each, that's 100 total. Just sit down and answer those via recording and then transcribe that. So this is probably the 6 easiest ways to write a book today. And I mean, I make it sound so easy, and I know it's probably more difficult for a lot of people, but here's the thing. If we can be honest for a second, Derek, the problem with book publishing is that people have the wrong image of what a book is in their mind. Okay, everybody thinks that in order for it to be a book, it has to be earth-shattering material, industry revolutionizing, never heard of content, stuff that's massively written, stuff that's like Gone with the Wind at 400 pages, things that are written like J.K. Rowling's, or things that, so everyone has this image of what a book is in their mind, but it's really not that at all. If you think about this, and if you go with the following structure, just do 8 chapters, and 8 chapters at 10 pages each. That's 80 pages of content. By the time you throw on an introduction and you throw on a foreword and you put in some quotes in the middle of that, you're going to have about a 110-page book. And that's what we recommend people write. If you're going to use a book as a marketing tool, a 110-page book is all that you need. And we wrote a great book called Multiply Your Business. It's exactly that. It's exactly 112 pages. If you guys go to publishabookandgrowrich.com and you go to free resources, I think you can get a free copy there if it's still available. Go there, get a free copy, and just model that. Just literally model that book. That book has brought in tens of millions of dollars for us over the last 4 years because we give it away as a lead generation tool and as a tool to show people how they can multiply their business. So, writing a book, you just need a new image of what a book is in your mind and reframe it, and then it'll get a lot easier for you. That's
amazing. Now I have a question, gave me the idea. I have all these recorded podcast episodes, which are like, your example of the recorded webinars or whatever. Mm-hmm. To make that a book, I mean, obviously some of each episode would not be relevant. If you were to transcribe interviews like this, how do you pick and choose what parts are worth putting in the book?
Well, that's a great question. So the best way to outline a book is really in question and answer format. So once you have your needs, desires, and problems, if you go through your chapters and you write down some relevant questions that other people are asking themselves, like your readership, that's where you'll be able to determine what should be in the book and what should not be in the book. I'll give you an example. As part of Messy Manager, the question people are asking for, and the subtitle to my book is how small business owners can double their sales and triple their profits. So that's what they're after. So if I'm interviewing you, for example, Derek, and we're having a conversation about how to do let's just say, I know you do a lot of fitness stuff, you do a lot of cycling stuff. Let's just say we have a discussion about cycling and fitness and health and how that can boost your productivity and ultimately, boost your income and boost your profits. Well, that could make it. That could be good. If we're talking about your Bali retreat that's upcoming in September, if we talk about that and you're talking about how people can really relieve either de-stress, how they can disconnect, how they can connect themselves to their new vision, how they can connect themselves to their new future, and how that's relevant to their business vision and how to double their sales and triple their profits, then great, I can use that. But if it's just about traveling for the sake of vacation and it doesn't relate to my book and my topic and what I'm trying to deliver for my audience, then it doesn't make the cut. You see?
Wow. Excellent. Yeah. You really got this process dialed in.
Well, it's when we do 120 boot camps a year. Our boot camps range from 100 people to 300 people. We try to keep them fairly small. We do 120 of these boot camps all over the world, from Sydney, Australia. We do all of Australia. We do Singapore. We do Malaysia. We do India. Actually, today, right now, while I'm doing this interview, we're in Bangkok, Vietnam, and Cincinnati all at the same time. So we do all the US, we do all of Canada, we do all of most of Europe, London, England, lots in the UK, lots in Scotland, lots in Ireland. We do Germany, we do South Africa. So, when you put, and by the way, we've put, Jerry Robert has put over 3 million people through his boot camps and presentations and these kinds of things. So yeah, we've seen a lot of students in the last 27 years. So we have a very dialed in process. And if you follow the system, you'll be successful. So it's really a question of following the system, because the system has done amazing things for amazing people.
Yeah. What's another really important ingredient after you've got your book for just overall success when it comes to working on your business and promoting your work?
Wonderful. So probably, it's a great question actually, because so I shared that the number one mistake people make are they don't think about their primary objective. They don't think about what the book can do for them. They're only thinking about their reader. So now that's the number one error people make. So I'm going to assume your audience is not going to make this error. So now the number two error people make is that after they get their book out, they get attached to the product and they get attached to the book and they don't give the book away. Now, let me qualify this. Writing a book is like giving birth. Now, the women in this listening right now are just going crazy, but you're essentially birthing this book. I mean, it's so many hours of work and anguish, and you're answering all these questions, and you go through a process, and it's very emotional. And then just let's pretend you're going to get through all of this, Derek, and then you have this amazing book that you can hold up and say, "I'm the author of this book." So you're like a proud parent at this point because you have your book. Here's the second biggest mistake people make. They then become afraid of giving this book away. Here's what I mean. Printing a book, if you're looking at a 112-page book, soft cover, you can get this book printed for somewhere between 50 cents and $1.50. So let's say $1 on average. I know people, Derek, who spend more on their brochure printing than that. So you have this $1, the hard cost of this is $1. So giving it away, you're only giving away $1. I mean, if you're charging $5,000 or $10,000 for your coaching, and I told you, if you give away $1 book, you can get more clients. Would you give some of these away? Yeah, no brainer. The problem is that after birthing this thing and after going through all that anguish and the process of writing a book and seeing the retail value of your book of $34 on the back of it, you will not be so easily reticent. You'll be more reticent to give them away. You will not as easily give them away. And that's a mistake people make. I've seen lots of authors do their books. They get 500, 1,000, 2,000 printed. They have this asset. I mean, this thing is a money-making asset. And they have it in their possession, but they're afraid to give it away. And as a result of that, their business is not as successful because the books, everybody thinks getting the book is the big deal. Here's what we say. Getting the book is the easy part. Getting rid of the book is the challenge. 1,000 books in your garage, Derek, does not do you or the world any good. So we focus a lot on strategies in our boot camp, 2.5 days. The first half day is spent on planning the book. So making sure you have the right book for your business. The second day is how to write it and publish it. And we spend a whole day, the third day, just on promoting the book, marketing the book, getting rid of the book. How do you give the darn thing away? How do you use the book to do seminars? How do you use the book to get publicity? How do you use the book to get clients to come to you? How do you use the book for online marketing if that's what you want to do? How do you use the book for offline marketing if that's what you want to do? All of these strategies.
And so I'm envisioning right now, like guys, at some event and everyone's trading business cards and then you go and say, well, actually, let me just give you a copy of my book. Is that something that people do?
My goodness, you nailed it, my man. You nailed it. Yes, that's exactly what we teach our authors to do. Now, so let's take a very realistic scenario. You're at a networking event, everyone's trading business cards, and then you run into an insurance salesman. Insurance salesman number one says, "Hey, Derek, pleasure to meet you. Here's my brochure. I'm going to leave 2 of them with you in case," and this is the kind of stupid shit they say. "I'll leave 2 of them with you in case you know someone who may need my services." And they give you 2 brochures. What do you do with those brochures?
Probably recycle them.
Exactly. Recycling them. And if there's no recycling around, you put them right in the trash, but you don't hang on to them is the point. If I was an insurance salesman and I wrote a book and the title is this, Protect Yourself. Okay. And I gave you 2 books and I said, hey, my name is JG and I'm the author of this great book, Protect Yourself. Here, I'd like to give you 2 copies. Here's a copy for you and here's a copy for someone else. And I'll autograph both copies for you. If you know someone who needs to protect themselves, feel free to give them this book. And I autograph these books for you. What are you going to think about me? And tell me, are you going to hang on to those books, Derek, or are you going to throw them in the recycling?
Yeah, I've actually just got a book someone gave me recently that they wrote in, and I read it and then passed it on.
Love it. And that's the thing. People don't throw out books. Everyone listening will remember a time when they picked up a stack of books, some old college textbooks or some old books someone gave them. And it's so emotionally difficult to throw out books. People do not throw out books. Actually, Derek, I think what you would do with those books is you would gift wrap the one and give it to someone for Christmas. That's what I think you would do with it.
Excellent. I was on the podcast of a guy as his guest, and he sent me his book as a thank you for coming on the show as well. And I thought that was a good touch.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's another example, right? So what did you think about, I mean, obviously anybody sending you a thank you note for having you on the show or you having him on the show is like, wow, that's great. You know, a thank you note is go. And again, that's because of the paper. A thank you email is one thing, but we teach our authors to send physically handwritten thank you notes because paper has gone up in value in a tremendous way in the last decade because of the advent of the internet and everything moving to online. But if someone sends you an actual copy of a book they wrote, what do you think about them? You think, wow, this person's a shooter. They're not just messing around. They're an author of a book. That's the positioning.
Yeah, it's pretty classy for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Is there anything that I haven't asked you about when it comes to either writing or giving away the book that you think people should know?
That is a fantastic question. I mean, I think ultimately the thing that stops people, and that's really what it's about. When we ask and we speak on big stages, I mean, we do conferences with 5, 6, 7, 8,000 people all around the world. We speak with big players like Tony Robbins. We've spoken with Donald Trump before he was running for president. We speak with Richard Branson on a very regular basis. And when we speak on these big stages, when we ask people who wants to write a book, 80% of the hands go up. And then we ask, what has stopped you? And really it comes down to the image people have in their mind about this book. They think it's got to be this 300-page book that's never been written before with totally new information without a single spelling mistake. I'm telling you, that is not what a book is. I mean, you have everybody that's listening has the power to write a book and change people's lives using this book. And in the process, they're going to position themselves as a person of authority and credibility, and they're going to position themselves as a leader in their marketplace, and that's going to impact their business. They're naturally going to grow their business, and that's why I promise people they can double their sales and triple their profits.
I love it. I'm definitely inspired to write a book with some of the podcast episodes fit really nicely into certain themes. So you've got at least one person to take action.
Hey, that's great. That's great.
JG, I've got 2 questions that I ask all of my guests.
Sure.
And the first one is, if you could change or add anything to the world, what would you wish for the world to have?
I would probably, okay, this is interesting. I've actually never said this before. I'd probably wish they would have less media right now. I find people with social media today, and I love it, and people can find me on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, and they can find our company and all that stuff, and they can find, but there's just so much. I mean, we know that the media companies are just, they promote negative news because it sells, and as a result, there's so much of it, and there's so much going on today that we're just bombarded by negativity. So my wish for the world is more positivity and people to really focus on what they want and then go after it. But man, the news medias aren't going to stop. You really have to turn the news channels off and stop tuning into all this negative stuff and get with the program. Yeah.
I stopped getting the newspaper and watching TV a while back, and I actually use it as a conversation starter when I'm meeting people. I say, hey, has anything new happened in the world recently that I need to know about?
I love that. That's great.
My final question is, what is your definition of adventure?
Ooh, fantastic. I think, that's interesting. I'll just sort of go with it. I think the definition of adventure is really taking a leap of faith into something you don't necessarily know what's going to happen, and you don't have it all defined, and you don't know the outcome, and you don't know where it's going to lead, and you don't know what direction it's necessarily going to take. I think if you set up your North Star, if you choose a path and you say, listen, I don't know all of the steps, but I'm prepared to take the first step, I think that's adventure.
Brilliant. Thank you. What's the best place for listeners to find you online and find out more about what you're up to?
Well, I think the best website they can go to is publishabookandgrowrich.com. Publishabookandgrowrich.com. It would be the best site. On there, you can find our blog. You can find a bunch of free resources. You can get those special reports I was telling you about, which I'll also include in the show notes. You can find all of our events, and we have a ton of them. We have, like I said, 120 boot camps a year. You can find everything is there. You can find our social media from there. So really go to publishabookandgrowrich.com.
Awesome. And really appreciate you coming on the show, and really enjoyed the specifics in terms of examples, and the, like the 6 steps to writing a book was really useful, I think. So again,
cool.
really appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
All right. Sounds good. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. Hope you guys enjoyed that one with JG Francouer. A lot of really useful, specific information. I'm definitely going to talk to help a reporter out. Sign up for that. And I'm really motivated to get this book out, using some of the blog posts I've written. I actually have a short little book. I guess it's not a full-length book, that I put together my most popular blog posts into a lifestyle guide, and I was trading that for email signups on my website. And I have this great podcast content that needs to get out there in the form of a book. So hopefully that gives you a lot of ideas, and you can write your book and get famous, become a celebrity if you want that, because some of you don't want that. Anyway, thanks for listening today. If you haven't already subscribed in iTunes, I would love for you to do that. So you can subscribe, and I'd love a rating and review. You can use that space in iTunes as the way to give comments and feedback about this episode and about the show in general, what you're liking about it. It does 2 things. It helps me learn what's useful to you so that I can keep making the best shows possible, and it keeps the show up in the rankings because the iTunes algorithm likes it when shows get reviews. So if you do that, I will love you forever. Thanks for listening to the episode today. Now it's your turn to go out there and be adventurous.